and welcome to a very different video than what I usually do. I actually built this shelf and I put backing on. I have not put like things to help keep the shelf up because the drill was in the way and the shelf was in the way. So I'm gonna put stuff to like help keep the shelf, but yeah, I'm gonna need a consultant for that. My consultant equals my dad. So that will happen next time they come, my parents. But now I'm gonna build another shelf. It's a little bit more narrow and I don't think I will talk much while I do it. I might do like a voiceover because it takes time. I have not built very much stuff. And since I am going to be using a drill and I have long hair, it's very important to make sure the hair do not get in the drill. Because I intend to keep the hair on my head, not kind of like drilled away. Literally. I've seen shorts on YouTube clips of that. Like people not making sure that their hair is safe and secure and getting stuck everywhere. And I don't think I would like that. Truth be told, I don't think anyone likes it. So why they don't just take care of it right away and make sure it doesn't happen, I don't know. I am smarter. So I braid my hair to make sure it doesn't get stuck everywhere. So, fingers crossed that it works. This is the first thing I've built, except some wooden boxes, but they got very crooked. So, keep your fingers crossed and hope this works out, because I sure hope so. So, and it'll probably speed up stuff and all, you know. Let's be honest. I don't really know what I'm doing, so fingers crossed. So I have a paper that trying to figure out what to do. I mean, I've started to do some of it, and I realize here that the first two pieces, I had actually made holes in them when I built the first shelf. So I didn't need to make new holes, but putting things together and deciding which side goes up and down, not the easiest. And building a shelf is, I can't even quite put into words how much measuring there is when you make a shelf. As I said, building a shelf, it's the first time I've built something in this size all by myself. So it was not exactly easy, and I tried to measure and I made holes to make sure that the pieces didn't crack. Luckily, spoiler alert, that did work out. Nothing did crack, which was great. But the measuring, oh my god, I don't think I've had my hands on a measuring tape that many times throughout any project ever. And even though I'm definitely using a drill here, and honestly, on the footage, it doesn't look that bad. But let me tell you, in reality, it's not something that I've done a lot. It's not something that I'm used to doing a lot. So knowing all the things, how to position it and all that. And since I am making the shelf in the room where it's going to be, vacuum cleaning was a surprisingly big part of the whole project too. If I had built the shelf somewhere it didn't matter, it wouldn't have been a problem. But I mean, I had yarn in this room and I didn't want it to get too dirty with all the things. But back to the putting together things. This is the part of the process where I wished I had at least another set of hands. Preferably another person would have been great because trying to hold things steady, putting things in the right place, having all the right tools put together in the right way, and trying to, yeah, basically just put things where they were supposed to be. And that was difficult, to say the least, because you have to do it on a right angle. You can't have it be crooked, because if one piece is crooked, the whole shelf is going to be crooked. I should know, I have made a box to store my potatoes in, and those boxes were definitely not straight. They were, well, tilted is the nicest way to put it. And trying to measure and things like sliding and moving and trying to hold it steady and measuring again to make sure everything is at the right place. It was, yeah, challenging. And it just, yeah, another set of hands would have been great. But even though it was challenging, and also how many times do I need to use that word? And luckily for me, I do have legs that I can use. And I used my legs on a couple occasions to try to help me steady things while I was putting it together. And I repeat, the measuring, I was measuring and measuring and measuring until I felt like my eyes were going crossed. Because, and then, like, not just the measuring, but like, wait, which number was I supposed to measure, and where, and how did it all fit together? It was, man, it was challenging, but I did kind of agree with myself eventually and started screwing things fully in. And, you know, eventually I did manage to get the first two, because this is one of the sides and the bottom and the shelf. And that was definitely the hardest part of the whole process, to be honest. And right there, I'm a little confused as to which side went where, and like which, like, where did everything go to put it the right place. Um, but as you can see, it's going so much faster when the two shelves are already stable where they're at. Though, even though it was easier, it was still a lot of measuring, because I wanted it to be as perfect as possible. I'm not saying that they ended up completely perfect, but I wanted to do, well, as good of a job as I could. And not only did they have to be right, like exact same as the other, I had to make sure that the shells weren't poking out. And, when you bump stuff, you have to move it again and make sure things are at the right angle, which was not easy. And putting things like at the right angle, at the right measurements, and getting everything right is surprisingly difficult. I will say this is the second shelf that I was building. The one in the background I had already built over, honestly, multiple days. Um, the shelf I'm building in this video, I did in one day, because my parents were coming to visit, and I I really wanted it to be done so I could show it off. Let's be honest. I wanted to show it off, so I had to be quick about it. There was no dilly-dallying around. I have to just get this done. So I was also a little stressed. The shelf in the background was my first one, and that took so much longer, and it was so much harder. But since I already had done that, the shelf I'm building in this video, it was a lot easier. and it did go a lot faster. And the sides, the shelves basically, I put together with 4 screws. First, I drilled holes in the sides and then in the shelves and then put the screws in. The top, however, slightly different. The top, I only needed 3 screws because it rests on top of the sides. So that was also made it a lot easier, but still, I had to get all the measurements right. Again, measurements are a challenging thing because I'm not used to it. And I don't know if you know this. I mean, if you're used to something, it's often easy. But when you're not used to doing something, it is, at least in my opinion, surprisingly difficult and took a long time. And by now, I really hope you realized I sped up the video a lot. The speed that the video is going on, that is not, I mean, just look at my movements. There's no way that is natural. Well, it is natural, just in a very sped up way. Because if I hadn't done that, the video would have been, oh my, it would have been long. I mean, honestly, I think it's long enough, but anyway, I wanted to show the whole process. Also, I've never filmed a video where I made something like this before, so that in and of itself was a challenge. And also, like, knowing exactly like how far down to drill and all the things, there are so many little details. And obviously back to the vacuum cleaning, because as I said, this is a room where all the stuff is, including all the yarn and all the finished items that I've made. And I didn't want to risk, well, messing that up, at least not too much. I know that there might have some dust on them now, but I mean, sometimes you just gotta make it happen. And as I said, the top here, only 3 screws on each side because it's resting on top. So it doesn't need to, sturdy is the wrong word. It doesn't, not, I mean, it is sturdy because it is resting on top. So the screws are just there to not keep the top up, just keep it in place, basically. So yeah, it was challenging, and as I said, especially since I was in a bit of a hurry. And I mean, I've seen shelves that don't have backing on them, and if you use them and if you push something a little too far in, it falls out behind. And what I'm using as a backing is, oh, you can't see it in this clip. It's almost a little sad. But I found, and also I don't know the English word, laminate? Some kind of floorboard thingy that is basically the floor in most of my house, except this room that I'm working in. And I didn't have the tools to kind of hammer it together in a good way, so you use what you got in DIY projects. And I had to be careful because I didn't want to mess it up, because it has kind of like places where it sticks together, and if you mess those up, you can't actually put them together, those little pieces. That's not a full piece. Oh, the width is the correct one, but they used to be a lot longer. The rest of it is the backing to the other shelf, which is technically a cabinet because it has doors eventually. But yeah, trying to figure things out, realizing that the piece that goes inside the next piece is on top, and also is not 100% straight, so there was a challenge. One of the challenges was using a jigsaw. At least I think that's what it's called. it's something, it was my Christmas present actually, that song from my parents. And I love it, though I haven't used it much. And cutting straight, I mean, that I need practice. I need so much practice. And I probably also need a better way to do it because doing it the way I did, it was I made sure to be careful, to be safe. I put on um, thingies to cover my ears because it was loud. But a part of me wish I had some sort of. Luckily, it wasn't a problem. Nothing jumped at me, but some kind of protection glasses would have been a good idea. I would definitely recommend that. But I was standing, obviously, on the floor with the wooden box that I put it on. That is one of the wooden boxes I made. That is kind of like my uh, test run that I'm not using for potatoes, but cutting, and I did my best to cut straight. It wasn't quite as straight as I wanted, but I mean, I did my best. So even though it wasn't completely straight, it was as straight as I managed to make it. So, and also safety. Make sure to unplug stuff and turn stuff completely off before you put it away and stop using it. Safety is important. And, you know, it was not easy to put it all together. And especially that backing plate, when I finally managed to put the pieces together, that felt really good. But still, the positioning of the whole thing was challenging. And also, I had it on my note on the piece of paper. I'd written down which screws to use, and which drill bits to use. And then we're back again with the measuring. It was so much measuring. By the end of that day, because I did it all in one day. Actually, I did it in day before dinner because my parents were coming for dinner. But yeah, it was so much measuring. All the little things, because all the pieces, they were technically, I put them together as one piece, but I still had to drill holes and put screws in all the 4 pieces to make sure that everything stayed where it was supposed to when, I put it upright again. So, and luckily for me, the last screws here, they were very, very small and very short, so I didn't have to move back and forth between the drill and the hand screwdriver. I think that's what it's called in English. But yeah, so many holes to drill, so many screws to screw in. But luckily, everything did eventually turn out acceptable. But the measuring and the math and trying to figure it out, it took, what can I say, a surprising amount of time and mental energy. But, you put it all together and eventually, when you're done, you're hopefully happy with the result. I know I was. But the measuring, man, it was so many screws because, as I said, all the 4 pieces, they had to have 2 screws on each side. So 2 screws on the left side and 2 screws on the right side. And that took, in a way, that took shorter time than some of the other things because it was quite simple. It was just, it took time because it was so many holes. It was so many places that I had to measure before I drilled a hole. or many holes. Honestly, I lost count of how many holes I drilled. It was a lot. It was a lot. But I mean, I was starting to get the hang of it by the end there. So by the end, drilling the holes and putting in the screws, it definitely took shorter time than what it did in the beginning. I mean, it just, yeah. And as I said, my parents were coming, so I was getting stressed. And the top here, I'm making sure that it has two screws on top there too, to both secure it, but also, make sure that the backing doesn't sway away from the shelves. I've seen pre-made shelves where they have backing, but it's only fastened around the edge. It's not fastened to the top and the bottom and the middle. The top was one thing. And the reason I'm struggling with the bottom here is because the bottom of the backing is lower than the lowest shelf. So I had to do some math because you want to put the screws as much in the middle of the pieces of wood as possible. Because if you don't put it in the middle, you might make a hole and then you end up like an over or under or cracking them somehow. So it has to be like as much in the middle as you can. And drilling a hole before you put the screw in is mostly to make sure that things don't crack. Because you don't want things to crack. Because that would be bad. That would be really bad. Luckily for me, nothing cracked, but tidying up also takes some time because we're back with the vacuum cleaning again, because that is what you do when you do stuff inside when you probably should have been doing it outside, but by the end, you can lift a finished shelf. At least that's what I did.
And there it is. The second shelf I've made. Sure, the first one, the one here, and they both need like these things for the shelves. And that one also have hinges. It's gonna get doors, but the one I just made, here it is. Hold on. I think I did a pretty good job. And now, when that is done, I can finally clean up this mess. Because a lot of this is going in that shelf and that cabinet when the doors are on. All right, so they both now have these bracket things under the shelf and under the bottom to make extra sure that the shelves are secure. Doors with hinges have been put on. I realize I forgot to think about something, because they need magnets to be able to stay closed. And if the doors have magnets, I need to be able to have like a knob or something to be able to open the doors. The shelf also have the little thingies under the bracket thingies to help stabilize it. I also have way more books than I thought. Books and binders. So that shelf is already full because I have started tidying up a little bit. But as you can see, there's still so much left. And let's be honest, all will not fit in there. I didn't intend to put the yarn in there, but still, I mean, do you see all the boxes? Also, can you hear my floor creak? But yeah, so many boxes that needs to be emptied out. But the shelves are now working. As I said, the doors need magnets and a knob, or a knob each. And then there you have it. Those are my first shelves that I built mostly on my own. My dad helped because we had to, yes, I know, I was working on the shelf by myself. But the hinges here, I don't know, can you see that there's a little, like they had to be put in a little to be the least amount visible? My dad helped me with that. He also helped me fix the brackets, and it's all working just fine. But the shelf I built mostly by myself. Dad helped with the brackets, that's it. It's already full, so I might have a problem or a new project, depending on how you see it. But I'm so happy I managed to make this, and it was both harder and easier than what I thought. So, what my next DIY make project will be, I don't know. Stay tuned, you might find out just as I will.